Hey, what's up? This is Marquis Munson, one half of the Marq Marq podcast, presented by Tide 102.9 100.9, the home of Alabama sports. And speaking of Alabama sports, if you want to get the latest news surrounding the Alabama Crimson Tide, if you want to listen to 12 hours of our live local radio starting from Martin Houston at 6 a.m., ending with Ryan Fowler at 2 p.m., make sure you go download that Tide 102.9 app and the App Store and also in Google Play. So if you have your Android and you got your iPhone, you got your iPad, whatever device that you have, make sure you carry the Crimson Tide wherever you go, just like Bo Scarborough carries defenders to the end zone. Make sure you go download that Tide 102.9 app right now. Maybe not right now because we're about to start the podcast, but soon after the podcast is over with, make sure you go download that Tide 102.9 app in the App Store and also on Google Play. Now it's time for the Marq Marq podcast presented by Tide 102.9. Welcome back to another episode of the Marq Marq podcast presented by Tide 102.9 100.9, the home of Alabama sports. I'm your host, Marquis Munson, here representing Tide 102.9 100.9, the home of Alabama sports. Also here with my boy for SECcountry.com, Marq Burnett. What's going on with you, Mark?
Man, great to be here. So happy to be back for podcast number 3.
Did you enjoy the intro music? That was Future.
Yeah, I know. Mask off.
Nah, that was Slick Talk.
Oh, Stick Talk.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Come on, man. You got to get your future right, dog.
I'm tripping.
Come on, man. I thought you would be more a little versatile than that.
Well, it threw me off. I mean, it was so loud in my ears, I could barely hear anything. I couldn't even hear myself breathe.
Oh, damn. My bad, dog. It was a little too loud. I thought you liked it amped up and turned up, man. So
I do, but I mean it's during the week right now. I gotta. That's how I build up the energy for the weekend is take it easy during the week.
I know, man. We missing a lot of NBA stuff right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, we both love the NBA, both huge basketball heads. So, we got 82 games. It's a marathon.
We got
baby.
82 games.
It's a marathon. It's a marathon. I watched a little bit of that Cavs game. Sad to see Gordon Hayward's injury. Prayers up to him for sure. Very gruesome injury. So hopefully he can bounce back from that and get back on the court.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a tough, especially in the first game of the season, man. And I know Paul George had the same injury going into the Olympics, and that kind of affected him in his Pacer season as well. So it's just tough to see a guy break his leg, man. It's just I saw the pictures of it, man. It was nasty.
Yeah, like, do not look up those pictures if you don't have to.
Yeah, please don't. No, it showed up on my Twitter timeline, and that's kind of the worst time to see anything because it's like you can't control it at that point because it's on your Twitter timeline. I mean, so for the people who are out there tweeting that picture, please, man, just
stop.
Don't tweet it. Just if people want to see it, let them find out on their own. It's sad because I thought Boston was going to be one of those teams in the East, and now if you lose Hayward, that's not going to happen.
Well, I have to disagree with you 100% there. I never thought they were going to be
really
a team in the East. No, nobody's going to win the East as long as LeBron's in the East.
Come on, man. Come on now. There's 2 teams. No, 3 teams that I can see competing with the Cavs.
Stop it.
3 teams.
Stop
now
it.
2.
In the East?
Yeah.
Stop it.
2.
Stop it.
2 now.
Stop it.
Milwaukee?
You couldn't even say the name right.
Milwaukee.
No.
Yes.
No.
Antetokounmpo.
Whatever.
Greek freak.
All right. I like him a lot. He's not beating LeBron.
All right. The Wizards. That's team number 2.
They couldn't even get to the Eastern Conference Finals last year.
This is a whole new season, man.
Man, get off my podcast with this garbage.
Man, come on, man. Look, man. I really think this is going to be a competitive season this year. Maybe in the West, more so important because the West is stacked. You don't even think the West? Come on. So you think it's going to be Cavs and Warriors just like it's going to be Alabama, Clemson possibly?
Well, we may not be guaranteed Alabama, Clemson after this past weekend, Friday night.
I mean, that's true.
But yeah, I definitely think it's going to be Cavs, Warriors, part 4. I don't think there's any question about that.
Nah, I'm going to go. It may be Houston. It could be Houston. That's one team. I don't know about the Thunder.
You tripping.
Offensively, they're good. Defensively, I don't know if they can hold up to the Warriors.
They'll be fun to watch, but they won't be a good team in the playoffs.
Also, Spurs, maybe.
Nah.
They're going to be up there.
Nah. It's the Warriors, Cavs.
Timberwolves, they're going to be there, but they're not going to compete.
Please stop. They'll be in the NBA, yes, but they're not going to.
You missing what I'm saying, though. I said the Timberwolves are going to be good, but they're not going to compete.
Why are you naming these teams when we already know
because these are going to be teams that are
going
to be in the playoffs, so they're going to compete at least in the playoff forms, but they're not going to compete for a championship, not yet.
I hate to say it because I love competitive NBA, but I just think these two teams are head and shoulders above everybody else in the league, and I think Golden State getting Durant, I mean they're a juggernaut. If you're going to beat them, you were going to beat them last year when they were still sort of figuring things out. Now they've had a whole year, barring some type of injury, knock on wood. I don't want to see anybody get hurt, but I mean, I just can't see anybody beating the Warriors, man.
I mean, I feel you on that, but I don't know. I want to see a competitive season, especially coming from my Lakers, but I know that ain't gonna happen.
God.
See, look, you already making reactions to the statements that I'm making, but you're not letting me finish my statement.
All right, go ahead.
I already know the Lakers aren't gonna be in the playoffs this year, but I like the way our future's looking so far. If we keep Brook Lopez, because I like Brook Lopez, I think he's a good center. Maybe he's not top 5, but I at least give him like a slight 9-10.
You mortgaging the future on Brook Lopez?
Nah, Lonzo Ball too. But I'm just saying he's only on a 1-year deal. So if I'm looking towards the future, we need a center, and he's only on a 1-year deal. So after this season, he's probably out anyway. But we're gonna rely on Lonzo Ball. Hopefully, get the whole Ball family, and I guess all of them are gonna play point guard for the Lakers. We'll see about that. But let's recap now. Alabama, 41-9. A lot of people are saying it was a sloppy 41-9. I was at the game. It was an impressive game, to say the least. Alabama did look a little sloppy on offense. I know Damien Harris rushed for the first play of the game, rushed for 75 yards for a touchdown. Jalen struggled a little bit through his first interception and of the season, and he kind of ended that streak that he had where he didn't throw a pick. And punt returns looked terrible. Muff punts, 3 of them, 1 lost. And it was funny because I was watching the game because I saw Trayvon Diggs on the sideline. And I asked, the homie I was with, I was like, why aren't they putting Trayvon Diggs in if Ruggs has just fumbled the ball? And he was like, I guess he's hurt. So then Trayvon Diggs comes out, and then he muffs a punt. So it's just like, I don't know where Alabama's doing as far as punt return and their kick return or whatever. I even heard thoughts of Minka going out there, which I wouldn't put Minka out there.
Why not?
I don't know. I like to use him strictly for the defense. I don't want to tire him up too much. That's like me using JK for field goal kicks. It's just
they do that too.
Yeah, for long kicks, but
and kickoffs.
I don't know. I like to keep him on the defense. He's already everywhere on the defense. I kind of want to keep him that way.
Yeah, I mean the freshman Henry Ruggs, probably a little bit of jitters. Getting back there deep, getting the start for the first time in his career. I think it was a situation where he was probably looking to make a play before securing the ball, and obviously securing the ball is the number one thing. Trayvon Diggs, he had been banged up, last week or so, but he had the one muff, but he got back after. He fielded too cleanly, and Henry Ruggs also bounced back, had a touchdown catch. So we talked to Nick Saban about that this week, and he said the issues are very fixable. It's just a matter of getting the guys to focus on the ball, focusing on securing the ball, number one, before you try to look and see the coverage and break a play. I think sometimes with young guys, they want to break it open and make a big play, and you got to secure the ball. That's what guys like Cyrus Jones did later on in his career, Javier Arena, some of the other punt returners. The big plays will come if you're just patient.
But Alabama fans panic, man. You know this though. Like you talked about this with the offensive line, and then all of a sudden the offensive line conversation had died down a little bit, but now it's coming back up again after this game. So you know how Alabama fans get, man. They see something negative on the field, they're gonna carry it over to the next week until it get fixed.
I mean, yeah, I see that. I even had a tweet, during the game. I was like, cancel all punt returns, but it's just fun. Hopefully nobody's overreacting too much. And again, you got to remember, especially for Henry Ruggs, I mean, he's a true freshman. That was only his 7th game of the year, so he's a guy who's still figuring things out, still learning. And Nick Saban said they're going to rep him in practice this week, and they'll be fine going forward.
Absolutely. And he complimented Henry Ruggs. I know he was asked a question at the press conference about Henry Ruggs, and, he had high praise for him. And, he's going to be a good player for Alabama for years to come. And let's not let, 2 muff punts or 1 fumbled, dictate how this guy is going to play for the rest of the season because, if you looked at him and Tua, they kind of got a connection there. Him, Tua, and Jared Judy, both. They all got this connection with Tua, which I'm not pushing Tua out there, by the way. But I don't know if you saw this either, but the Blake Sims tweet. Now, Ryan, host of the game with Ryan Fowler, he asked me what that meant. Like, there's a message behind what he's talking about. And he didn't know it, but I kind of figured it out as soon as I read it. Did you kind of catch up on the same message that I did?
Yeah, break it down for the people.
Should I break it down for the people or okay?
You got it.
So,
explain it first.
I gotta pull up the tweet real quick.
Yeah.
But Blake Sims, of course, has high praise for Jalen Hurts, and that's coming far away because a lot of people don't have high praise for Jalen Hurts. You got some naysayers, and you got some people that like him. You got some people that think he's not going to be a good quarterback. So Blake Sims tweeted, I used to give them 4 quarters like they asked for a change. Proud to say my little brother about to do the same. Now, here's what I think he meant. Now, you can agree with me, but here's what I think. Because I like, when I read hip-hop lyrics, I like to, think deep into what they talking about. I'm like, oh, yeah, that was definitely a shot at Drake. Yeah, Kendrick. Yeah, I know what you're doing there. I was slick, but I like that. So I used to give them 4 quarters like they asked for a change. I'm thinking that
4 change, not a change.
4 change, yeah. So I'm thinking he means Jacob Coker. A lot of people wanted Jacob Coker to play over Blake Sims. And people were asking, saying that, Coker should start over Blake Sims, but he's the one that played for the 4 quarters and won most of the games for the Alabama Crimson Tide. So that's what I think he meant by that first part. Now he's flipping over to people after this Arkansas game watching Jalen Hurts and how he's played. Now they're seeing that, we want Tua. And I know we hear this Tua conversation every week. And we can probably do a whole podcast every week on the Jalen Hurts update on if he's gotten better as a passer or not. But people are saying the same thing about Jalen, how we want Tua to start over Jalen Hurts. And now he's going through the same thing. Do you agree? Is that what he meant by this tweet, or did I miss something there? What's up?
I did not get that at all. I'm not going to lie. I did not get even.
But do you see where I'm coming from, though?
I mean, I guess in a super, super roundabout way, maybe, but I didn't get that at all. I just thought it was just a catchy way to say that he used to give it to him for all 4 quarters. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
Maybe I'm sleeping on the tweet. Maybe I'm sleeping on the tweet. I just thought it was a catchy way to, give Hurts a shout out. I didn't really read that much into it.
Dang, my bad. I mean, I look at stuff like that and I'm just like, is he talking about the quarterback controversy here? Because people are still.
But there is no quarterback controversy though.
I mean, but depending on who you talk to.
Now, you
talk to me, yeah, I'm going to say there's not a quarterback controversy. But you talk to someone else, there's people at this station who think there's a quarterback controversy.
No, I mean, there's first of all, let's be clear. There's no quarterback controversy. You can have people who want to see another quarterback, but that's just their own opinion. There's clearly no quarterback controversy, though. I mean, I don't think anybody could dispute that.
Can we just say it like this? We need to stop. And I know we said this on even the first podcast. We need to stop thinking that Jalen Hurts is going to go out there and throw for 300 yards because he's not. We put this high expectation on Jalen Hurts thinking that he's going to throw for 200 yards and stay in the pocket, and that's just not the player he is. He likes to get outside the pocket, and he likes to run the football. I don't know if you saw my tweet. I said if Alabama Crimson Tide was the Migos, Jalen Hurts would be takeoff. Because that's what he likes to do. He likes to take off. And the offensive line will be offset because, they're just miscombobulated out there. They don't know what they're doing. So, if that's what Jalen Hurts likes to play, then we have to kind of fit into what the skill set is that he brings to the table. It's like with Tim Tebow. It's like Tim Tebow couldn't throw a ball 50 yards, but yet he was still a good quarterback and he won a Heisman. But also, if you look at his weapons, he had Percy Harvin, Riley Cooper, Aaron Hernandez, and he had all those guys surrounding him. Jalen Hurts don't have that. He has Calvin Ridley. Ruggs and Sims, they're good, but they're young. Judy, same thing. So I look at it as we need to stop having these expectations towards Jalen and just appreciate the skill set that he brings to the team. And he hasn't lost yet, so what are we complaining about?
I feel like you're having like personal conversations with somebody who doesn't like Jalen, and that's sort of driving your need to defend him.
No,
like
but
I
it's
said,
everybody. I get tweets all the time about this, man.
I feel like anybody tweeting that, you need to ignore them. Seriously. I mean, I'm not even kidding. Like, I mean, if it's your friend or if your family member, you need to be like, hey,
but
we're
no,
just
I
not
got
going to
people
talk
who
Alabama
agree with
football.
me on my side.
That's what I'm saying. I'm telling you, if anybody's tweeting you that stuff, saying that stuff to you, you need to ignore them when it comes to Alabama football because they clearly are not paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I hear Tommy Tuberville now saying that Jalen Hurts is a Heisman candidate, which I'm not going to go that far, saying that he's a Heisman candidate, because there's another guy on this team who I think could be a possible Heisman candidate, and that's Damien Harris. Damien Harris, 9 carries, 125 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 75-yard touchdown on the first play of the game, 68 carries, 625 yards, and 9 touchdowns for the Alabama Crimson Tide so far this season. And we haven't really talked about him being a Heisman candidate yet.
Yeah, I wrote a piece about it. Damien Harris, I think he's a guy who you got to include in the conversation at least as one of the best running backs in the country. I think it's a situation where he's been the best offensive weapon on Alabama's team, which is the number 1 team in the country. He's carrying that offense to a degree. And he's been incredible these last couple of weeks, especially, sort of getting the team off to a hot start, 75-yard touchdowns in back-to-back weeks on the first offensive play. I just think it's a situation where what's going to hurt him is the fact that he plays at Alabama, number 1, which is a place where nationally they just don't get the recognition for individual awards for the most part because I think the individual success is sometimes overshadowed by how dominant the program is. People see it as a football factory and think, okay, well, Alabama could just plug in anybody and do that. And to a degree, they have been able to do that. And also, too, he's just not going to get enough touches. Alabama's doing a really good job of, managing their running backs. No running backs carried the ball more than 15 times in a game this year. And I think it's a situation where he's just not going to have enough touches to even seriously be in consideration.
And then you look at other guys who are you look at Bryce Love at Stanford, and then you look at, Berkeley at Penn State, even though he has his next 3 games are going to determine whether or not he wins a Heisman or not. He has the same amount of yardage. He has a little bit more than Damien Harris, 649 yards, 102 carries, 6 touchdowns. So if you're going to consider a guy but that's ignoring the fact that what he's doing as far as wide receiver is concerned, as far as him, I think he threw a passing touchdown this season as well. So that's ignoring those other things that he's bringing to Penn State. And we'll see in these next 3 games to where we talked about Leonard Fournette, being a Heisman candidate early on in his season, and then he played Alabama, and then what happened? Had to stop. He had all that Heisman hope stop. And that's the same thing that can happen with Berkeley as well, to where he can have that stop in these next 3 games because he's going against Michigan. He's going against Ohio State and Michigan State in these next 3 games. So we're going to find out with these big game situations whether or not he's going to be a Heisman candidate. And then the rest of their games are cupcakes. So the rest of their games, he can kind of ride the way to New York. But I think when you consider who's the best player on your team, on a winning team, and I know they do the same thing with the NBA to where you look at who's the best team and who's the best player on that team, you can't deny that Damien Harris is that person who, outside of Minkah Fitzpatrick, is possibly the best person on this team, especially on the offensive end.
Yeah, I really like Penn State's Saquon Barkley. I think he's been a really great player for them, and he's just getting more opportunities. He's getting more opportunities than Alabama's running backs, which is not anybody's fault at Alabama. But yeah, I agree. I think you would have to put Damien up there in terms of the guys who will be really tough to replace because he's developed into a guy who's very physical. He's running through guys this year. He's running around guys. And the biggest thing this year that's the difference is he's got that breakaway speed. He's not getting caught from behind anymore. If he gets in the open field, it's a foot race, and he's usually going to win. And I think that's been what set him apart. He had 2 touchdowns all last season. He's already got 8 or 9 this year. The guy's just killing it. And I I really think he deserves more sort of national recognition for what he's doing.
Do you think he gets an invite to New York?
I mean, we still got, what, 5 games left? I mean, I guess if something crazy happens, but he's going to need some signature-type moments. I'm talking about maybe a 200-yard game here or there, because if you look at Mark Ingram's season, I think he had a 200-yard game. Derrick Henry probably had a couple of 200-yard games when he won the Heisman. So you got to have some of those jaw-dropping moments where people are like, oh, my God, look at this guy. And that's like rushing for 200 yards, getting 3 or 4 touchdowns in one game. And I'm just not sure if he's going to get the opportunities to do that. Now, if he could break a couple of 75-yarders in the same game, we could be talking. But I think it's just going to be really tough because you got the quarterbacks to compete with. You got guys like Bryce Love, Saquon Barkley in terms of running backs and tailbacks. And then it's just going to be really tough in terms of not getting the amount of opportunities to win the Heisman.
And you look at who Mark Ingram was going up against in the Heisman. He was going against Toby Gerhart. So that's a running back that he had to compete with. But the only difference between Mark Ingram and Toby Gerhart is Alabama was winning and Toby Gerhart was losing. So I think if Penn State does start to lose and, maybe he's not playing the same way and then Damien's still playing at a high level, even though he has a short amount of carries, I think Damien Harris can possibly squeeze by him as far as who's going to win this Heisman. I think he gets an invite to New York, but I just don't know if he'll hold the trophy at the end of the night.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be really tough. Like I said, he's gonna have to have that signature moment where you're like, okay, this is the game that sort of puts him over the top and everybody's watching. And that's the good thing about playing at Alabama is you're gonna be in a position to play a lot of the national television type games. You got CBS this week coming up against Tennessee. LSU will probably be a CBS night game. Auburn will definitely probably be a national game as well. Mississippi State will probably be on ESPN. So, I mean, he's going to have some opportunities. He'll probably get Georgia in the SEC championship game, which would be another primetime type game. So, there'll be opportunities there. It's just going to be a matter of having that big signature moment.
Do you know, speaking of CBS, how Alabama was supposed to have this Arkansas game possibly on CBS and then got it pushed back to the 6:30? Alabama and Arkansas had the second highest viewings this weekend.
That's not surprising. Birmingham is usually the top in the college football market, like for all games. I mean, people in Birmingham love their college football.
Yeah, and they even beat Oklahoma and Texas this week. So a rivalry game got beat out by a game that ended 41-9. And now the CBS game that we bring up, Alabama versus Tennessee. I know you love Butch Jones, man. I know you're a big Butch Jones fan.
Hashtag keep Butch Jones.
Hashtag keep Butch Jones. Keep all the SEC coaches. The way it's at the rate it's going, you might as well keep all of them. Butch Jones, his team is under 34 points. Alabama, a 34-point favorite in this game. Let me ask you, man, because I know we talked about this in Ryan's show too earlier today. This game kind of has lost its touch as far as a rivalry is concerned. Because when you consider Alabama has won 10 straight games in this quote-unquote rivalry that's supposed to be. Butch Jones is 0 for 4 against Alabama in this rivalry. So, I know I'm not from here. I'm originally from California, so UCLA, USC, they kind of blow that off. But it is a rivalry, but they kind of blow that off a little bit. It goes back and forth every now and then. But do you consider this game still a rivalry and still one of Alabama's biggest rivalries?
Yeah, I think to a certain portion of the fan base, a little bit older portion of the fan base, it's always going to be Alabama's biggest rival. I mean, it's always going to hold a special place in the heart of a lot of Alabama fans. But I think people our age and younger and some of the players probably see Auburn as a bigger rival, LSU as a bigger rival, because those games have been more competitive in recent years, and Tennessee just hasn't been competitive. I mean, we talked to Nick Saban about that on Monday, and he really had to dig deep to even think of games in his 10 years here that have even been competitive. I mean, you have 2009 when Alabama needed a field goal block from Terrence Cody, to win that game and go on to win a national championship. Then you had 2015 where, Alabama was coming off, I think, 6 or 7 straight games, hadn't had a bye week, and they were sort of just, sluggish in that game. Needed a late touchdown from Derrick Henry, who won the Heisman Trophy, and needed a sack fumble late in that game to hold on against Josh Dobbs after Tennessee sort of made a late run. Outside of those two, that's it. I mean, there are no other games that are even within 10 or 14 points outside of those two. So I think this just hasn't been competitive at all. And I just think people our age and younger just don't really see Tennessee as that big of a rival. But for an older crowd, I think it's always going to be the premier rival.
Yeah, I still think it has its rivalry, and I think it's going to take for another coach to come in Tennessee to actually be more competitive in this conference. And, I mean, when you look at the rest of Butch Jones' schedule here, you have Alabama, you have Kentucky, Southern Miss, Missouri, LSU, and Vanderbilt. And this is probably going to be the game where we see the last of Butch.
Because you think he's getting fired after this game?
After this Alabama game? Maybe not after the game, but after the season. But this will definitely be the game that they decide, like, yeah, we're not moving forward with this. I think if he keeps it competitive, they may consider it. Maybe, just maybe. But I think if you get blown out by Alabama, you lose to South Carolina last week, 15-9, when you have that game kind of in wraps, and then you also lose to Georgia 41-0 at home. So with that being said, I think if you get blown out by Alabama in this game, I think you're just done after that.
Well, if that's the case, and then this is just my opinion, but if you're going to fire him based off getting blown out by the Alabama game, you should have fired him before the Alabama game. But
that's what I'm saying. They should have. Yeah. I don't know why they didn't.
I just don't think – I mean, if you're hanging your hat on, okay, maybe he can be competitive against Alabama in Tuscaloosa, you might as well just get rid of the guy because, I mean, there's just no chance. I mean, realistically, nobody out there – I don't think there are even many people in Knoxville. I don't think there are many people in that building, in the Tennessee football complex that believes, outside of maybe the players, there's probably a few of them that are even down there that seriously believe Tennessee has a chance, let alone a chance to win. I mean, this game is not going to be pretty at all. I just think Alabama is so much better. The defense is playing well. Tennessee's starting a freshman quarterback or a redshirt freshman. That's the last thing you want to be doing when you're coming in here. I mean, they haven't scored a touchdown in their last 10 quarters, which includes, a 41-0 beatdown at home against Georgia. Then they lose at home to South Carolina, didn't score a touchdown. And Butch said something, around the way of, we did everything except for score touchdowns in the red zone. I mean, come on, bro. You got to score touchdowns. You can't be losing these games at home. It's one thing to get beat by Georgia. They're a really good team. But to get beat by South Carolina and to get shut out against Georgia, I can't understand why the fan base would want much more of that guy. But I don't think the Alabama game should be the game where you say, okay, let's fire him.
I thought he should have got fired after the Georgia game. They had a bye week, too. They could have figured it out.
I think at this point, I think he'll probably – I mean, unless something happens in the next – maybe against Kentucky, where if they get embarrassed against Kentucky, I think he'll probably make it through the end of the season because realistically, I mean, do you really want an interim guy in there? I mean, I think you make it to the end of the season, you put a plan in place, say, okay, these are the guys we're going to target, and then, go from there. I don't know what the benefit is of, firing him right now, especially not based on the Alabama game.
Butch Jones, 33-24 at Tennessee. Now, let's do a real quick. Do you think Butch Jones can compete against this Alabama team? I know Nick Saban tried to hype it up, saying that Tennessee should have been 5-1 this season, but
you could also make the case that they could be 1-5. I mean, they barely beat UMass, beat them by like 4 points. Then they needed overtime to beat Georgia Tech in the season opener. So yeah, Nick, they could be 5-1. They also could be 1-5. Take that.
Yeah. So there you go, Nick Saban. So do you think it's going to be a competitive game?
I do not. Not at all.
Nah. So do you think they're going to score a touchdown in this game?
Probably not.
You don't think they'll score a touchdown?
I mean, unless it's a situation where Alabama turns it over or, they get some type of penalty-led drive or something like that. I just don't see how you're able to move the ball in this defense.
I do see John Kelly is a talented running back.
He is, but, I mean, if you're going to be one-dimensional against Alabama, this is the problem. Alabama typically jumps on teams early. So when you jump on a team early, you can't really run the ball because you have to kind of throw it to get back in the game. And then you immediately become one-dimensional if they jump on you early. And I don't know how many touches Kelly is going to get. And also, I just don't think if your game plan is to line up and run straight at Alabama with Deron Payne in the middle, you're going to be in for a long day or night.
Absolutely. And coming up next on the Marq Marq podcast, we talk to Kid Kirsch. I call him Kid Kirsch. I don't know what you call him. What do you got a nickname for Chris Kirschner?
We'll go with that one for now.
We'll go with Kid Kirsch, man. Kid Kirsch, Chris Kirschner from SEC Country will join us on the podcast. He had a great story about Jake Pratt on SECcountry.com. You can make sure you go check that out. Also, we'll break down some recruiting as well. So we'll be back here on the Marq Marq podcast presented by Tide 102.9, 100.9, the home of Alabama sports.
Hey, this is Ryan Fowler, and if you missed the game, you missed this. College football analyst Brad, I hope you're doing well. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
Well, thank you, Ryan. I was going to say it's a big week. It's Tennessee week, but I guess that's not true anymore like it was when I was in school.
Yeah, but it's lost a little bit of luster, but it's still, I think, one of the best rivalries in college football.
To whatever extent the hammer and the nail have a rivalry, I guess it's a rivalry. But that's what it's become. Which look, if you're on the Tennessee side, you'd say that's a shame. If you're on the Alabama side, whatever. You're not
Sure.
you're not losing any sleep over punishing Tennessee every year.
No, and I think that's pretty much the point, because Tennessee, for a long time, we were talking about it prior to your arrival. You're looking at Jason Witten running all over Alabama, and all the Clausens and all the Mannings, and Alabama had a streak of a lot of games to Tennessee. But let me ask you, from a Tennessee, just sort of judging that program, how has this program fallen on such hard times? I mean, they're not supposed to be this bad.
No, that's a great question, because, end of, 2015, they were playing really well down the stretch. And I guess that was the year that they took Alabama to the wire in Tuscaloosa. And, the way they finished that season, of course, with so many guys coming back, everybody felt like, hey, this team is the favorite to win the East and, should be a top 10 team. And I don't think that those expectations were unfair. I think all that stuff was true, and that Tennessee should have been that type of team. But I don't think they responded very well to the adversity, and they should have been better than they were in the win column. And obviously, losing a lot of talent from last year's team, you thought, okay, maybe there's a chance that with the pressure off now, they could respond this year. But clearly, they haven't done that. They've gotten worse.
The Game with Ryan Fowler, weekday afternoons from 2 until 6, only on Tide 102.9 and 100.9.
Welcome back to the Marq Marq podcast presented by Tide 102.9, 100.9, the home of Alabama sports. And now we got a special guest. And the reason why we're playing that song, because our special guest loves this person. Mark, you're very familiar with this special guest. Why don't you give him a quick introduction? Because you guys are in the same camp. Y'all death row on bad boy kind of thing.
Yeah, this guy, covers the team some. Does a great job covering recruiting as well. Probably the biggest Yankees fan I know. He actually pours beer on himself every time the Yankees win a game.
That's weird, dude.
Chris Kirschner of SEC Country. How's it going, Chris?
Good. How are you guys?
Yeah, I know you were watching the Yankees game before we got in touch with you. So just give the listeners an update on what's going on with the Yankees.
Yeah, Yankees big comeback win against the Houston Astros. Tied up the series 2-2.
Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about that. No, but seriously though, where's your Yankee fandom come from? I mean, you're a big time Yankees fan. You obviously love the team.
Yeah, I grew up in the Bronx. I lived about probably 3 miles from Yankee Stadium when I was a kid. My dad and I would go to the games all the time. Got lots of autographs. I'm a big memorabilia collector. Have tons of autographs from Yankees over the years. So. Just really grew up with the team, went to so many games, and I fell in love with baseball. Baseball is actually my first love.
Yeah, I mean, Chris does a great job covering recruiting, does a great job covering the team as well. And this past week, you had a really, really, really good story on Jake Pratt, a special story. If you guys haven't read that story, go to SECcountry.com and check it out. Just give people a little insight into Jake's story and what made you interested in telling that one.
Yeah, well, I saw Jake's brother-in-law, Joseph Hyde. He graduated from Alabama back in 2004. He posted a video on Twitter on Jake getting the news that he was going to be a special guest of Alabama this past weekend via Mississippi. So I just thought that was a really cool moment. I reached out to Joe, started talking to him, and learned that Jake is a really, really special kid. He's gotten to go to Clemson and Auburn over the past few weeks and got to hang out with the team. He actually is on the football team at Vestavia Hills High School in the state of Alabama. So I don't know if you guys know, but a couple of weeks ago, Jake got into one of the games for Vestavia, scored a touchdown. That play went viral. So just learning about Jake's story was super inspiring. Got to spend a lot of time this weekend with Gene Stallings. Stallings is actually a big proponent of the RISE program. It's a program at the University of Alabama that incorporates both typical students and students with special needs. So the students with special needs can really adjust to society. So Coach Stallings is a really big proponent of that. He's raised so much money over the years. And Jake actually got to spend a couple hours with Coach Stallings earlier this past week, where he just reminisced about his time at the RISE program. Jake was in that program K through 5. So it was a really, really cool story and an inspiring one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Jake's story has been one of the better ones in all of college football, just sort of seeing him on the field with Nick Saban. I know Alabama gave him a custom jersey. And you mentioned Gene Stallings. Dabo Swinney was in town. Gene Stallings was in town, the 1992 team. You were on the field for that celebration. I mean, what was your takeaway from that moment, seeing all those guys back together and Coach Stallings?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway was Coach Swinney. It was really clear that national championship winning team really, really loved Coach Swinney. There was one point where the team was taking a picture, and Coach Swinney was actually standing somewhat in the back. And all the guys were like, Dabo, you need to come up front. You need to come up front. So it was really clear that those guys really love Coach Swinney. Coach Swinney had a smile on his face all throughout. So many of his former teammates were asking for selfies. Their kids wanted to take pictures with Coach Swinney. So I think that was the biggest takeaway, just how much he's respected by his former teammates.
We're talking to Chris Kirschner, Kid Kirsch, a.k.a., of SECCountry.com. Now, Chris, can you give us a real quick update on what's going on in recruiting? And I'm going to do this for the podcast from now on. Chris is from now on, he's going to send us recruiting updates, and we're just going to throw him in the podcast.
Yeah, we'll just call him like he's our intern or something.
Yeah, exactly. So, Chris, what's the latest on the Alabama recruiting trail right now?
Yeah, I mean, Alabama has definitely started off slowly this year. Only 11 commitments, ranked 24th in the country. Pretty much every single day, some Alabama fan is sliding in my DMs asking about what's the deal with Alabama, why are they sucking this year at recruiting. I mean, it gets old, but what I say all the time is that Nick Saban is still the head coach at Alabama. There's really nothing to worry about when it comes to recruiting. Yes, it started off slowly, but Alabama's in the midst for tons of elite players, and a lot of those players remain uncommitted. So it's not like Alabama is missing guys left and right to Toledo and Tulane or anything like that. I mean, Alabama's still in the midst for several 5-stars, multiple 4-star prospects. So it's still going well. Alabama is in the midst for 4-star defensive tackle Bobby Brown. He's probably the next likeliest commitment for Alabama at this time. He commits on November 2nd. He's taking an official visit to Tuscaloosa this weekend. So we'll see where things go with that. I know Alabama's hoping it wraps up Bobby Brown's commitment this weekend, but he does have an official visit next weekend to Texas A&M, so that visit definitely looms large. But as a whole, Alabama, like I said, 11 commitments, and things are going just fine. I really wouldn't worry too much about it.
All right, I got to put you on the spot before we get you out of here. It's mid-October right now. We got a few more months to National Signing Day. Nick Saban's obviously still the head coach. A lot of big-time assistant coaches still recruiting. Will Alabama finish with the #1 recruiting class when it's all said and done?
No, I think Ohio State is going to finish with the #1 class just because I expect them to land around 7 5-stars, which is a ton of 5-stars in one class. So I think the Buckeyes will have the #1 class. I do think Alabama will finish in the top 5, though.
He's Chris Kirschner. He is the Chance the Rapper to our 2 Chainz Lil Wayne here. Chris Kirschner. You can follow him at Chris Kirschner. SECCountry.com. Make sure you go check out that Jake Pratt story. It's an amazing story and great reporting there by Chris Kirschner. Chris, man, we appreciate you, man, joining the podcast. And I know because we're all close friends here, I really appreciate it, man. And hopefully you can do these updates for our podcast every week.
He doesn't have a choice.
No problem.
He doesn't have a choice. He's our intern now.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You
Just
don't
buy
have
me
a
a
choice.
couple drinks. Just buy me a couple drinks next time I'm in Tuscaloosa, and we'll call it a deal.
Oh yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you on Friday night, and I'm sure the town will be alive as it always is.
Hey, just don't wear that Yankees hat out, man, because I don't want to see that.
You got to wear your Dodgers hat, and I'll rub it in your face if the Dodgers actually blow the lead against the Cubs.
All right, Chris. Hey, but we're going to have a good time when you come out here, man. We always have a good time when you come out here.
Absolutely.
All right, Chris. Appreciate you, man.
No problem.
And when we come back, we're going to take you around the SEC and also college football. So don't turn that dial, even though you can't. Just don't turn off the podcast. You're tuned in to the Marq Marq podcast, presented by Tide 1029, 100.9, and the all-new Tide 1029 app. Welcome back to the Marq Marq podcast, presented by Tide 1029, 100.9, the home of Alabama sports. I'm Marquis Munson. I guess, who's going to be the Meek Mill in this situation, me or you?
Definitely you.
Nah, how am I going to be the Meek Mill? I ain't emotional like Meek Mill, man.
You hella emotional. You take a lot of selfies.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay. All right. That don't make me, hold on. That don't make me emotional, man. It's just, I'm one of those dudes. I can't be like, hey, y'all want to take like a group picture with me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I
just take pictures by myself, and the ladies like it, so who cares?
Hey, if the ladies like it, I love it.
Yeah, thank you, man. Most of my followers are women, man. I do it for them. I don't do it for y'all, man. Jeez, man, come on with it, man. That's what broke them up. This song, Rico.
Yeah, I know. I feel kind of sad because I actually like their connection together, but I'm Team Drake all the way though.
You Team Drake?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Drake did body him, but I'm always gonna go with the underdogs. I had to go with Meek, but that didn't end well because after he got dissed by Drake, he just started getting dissed by everybody because everybody thought it was free punching bags now. They just everybody swinging at Meek Mill. That was sad, man. And then he lost Nicki in the process.
Meek was the Butch Jones of hip hop there for a while.
Oh, come on, you can't call him Butch Jones, man.
Kinda.
Butch Jones?
Kinda.
He has some kind of talent at some point.
Yeah, you're right.
Come on, man. We can't give
I'll take that back.
Please do, man. We can compare him to a better coach. All right, so let's break down now the SEC real quick. So you had Auburn losing to LSU this past weekend. Not to mention they had the mascot dressed up as the Troy Trojan, went back out there, and then they got beat. So now Auburn, 2 losses of the season, 1 loss in the SEC. I can see another loss coming in the SEC if they play Georgia. So should we still have faith in this Auburn team, or is it kind of a done deal for these guys?
Yeah, I think at this point, it'd be hard pressed for me to say that they'll beat Georgia. I think Georgia's just a better team. I really like Georgia's run game. I like how Jake Fromm is developing, and Georgia's defense is elite, man. Very, 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 very good defense. And Auburn, I mean, they just can't figure out what they want to do on offense. It was super predictable. It was either throw it deep or run Kerryon Johnson. They got a really good defense down there at Auburn, but outside of that, the offense is still a pretty big question mark. And that loss at LSU just sort of proves it. I mean, Ed Orgeron came out and said that they basically had to make one adjustment, and they figured out whatever Auburn was trying to do, and it was kind of over for Auburn from there.
And we look at this SEC schedule this week, and it's terrible. There's not really a good game here. You got Idaho versus Missouri. Now, if Missouri loses this game, I'm kicking them out of the SEC like Uncle Phil and Jazz. Like, I'm throwing them straight out the door of the SEC if they lose to Idaho. Even though they're at home, so keep that in mind. You got Tennessee and Alabama, of course. You got Kentucky at Mississippi State, which could be a good game. I can see that being a good game. You got LSU, who's now ranked number 24 in the nation, going up against Ole Miss, and you also got the Auburn Tigers going up against Arkansas. Is there any one of these games that I just named that you're actually looking forward to watching?
To watching? Yeah, not really watching. I am intrigued by LSU Ole Miss. I just want to see if LSU is going to be able to sort of sustain that momentum coming out of that big win over Auburn. Ole Miss has been a dumpster fire this year, and LSU needs to win this game to sort of keep pace in the SEC West. So, and they got Alabama in a couple weeks, so that'll be. I think this will be one to watch with LSU Ole Miss.
I want to see what Kentucky and Mississippi State can do. I mean, I just because like I said, in the beginning of the season, I don't really care for Kentucky football because I don't think they're that good. Because they always do this. They go 5-1, 6-0, or whatever, and then all of a sudden they end the season at 6-6. How does that happen? You know how that happens? Losing games like this. Do I see them losing this game? They might be a better team than they were a couple years ago. I heard Mark Stoops is doing some things up there, especially with that defense. So I'm actually going to go with Kentucky on the road, beating Nick Fitzpatrick and the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
But that's actually not a crazy pick. I mean, Mississippi State, at one point, I feel like, after they beat LSU, we were probably all looking at them and saying maybe they could compete with Alabama, and then that was quickly debunked. What was it, in the next week or two? But, yeah, I think, Mississippi State is a solid team, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if Kentucky went in there and beat them.
That's what I'm saying. So that's a game I'm looking for. I'd watch Kentucky. No, I'm not, because that game's around the same time as Alabama, Tennessee, so I definitely won't be watching that game. But, man, college football is a weird place. It's a weird place. People losing. Clemson losing to Syracuse 27-4. And I noticed this. A lot of these teams lost to 3-3 teams. So you got Clemson losing to Syracuse, Washington losing to Arizona State. Then you got Washington State losing to Cal, which that hurts because I grew up in Pac-12 country, and this has kind of been the common occurrence of Pac-12 teams where they just beat each other. They beat each other. They always lose games that they're not supposed to lose, and that's the reason why a Pac-12 team possibly isn't going to be in the college football playoffs this year, because I can't see one who can bounce back from one loss this season. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. When you sort of look at some of these other top teams and people try to compare other programs to Alabama, whether it be Clemson or Ohio State, some of these other programs. But if you look at, what Nick Saban has done, they've won 72 straight games against unranked opponents. That's insane to think about. I mean, to think that Alabama just does not lose games that they're not supposed to lose. They do not, they typically don't even struggle in those games. They just come in and blow teams out. And you see a team like Clemson, who people were sort of starting to push Dabo Swinney as sort of the heir apparent to Nick Saban, and then boom, he comes out and gets smacked by Syracuse. You just can't lose those type of games when you're trying to build a program that's going to be a national contender every single year.
I felt bad for Dabo because he had to come on the plane and come to Tuscaloosa right after.
He looked lit, though. I don't know if you saw any pictures of him on the sideline.
Oh, yeah.
The thing I like about Dabo, he always looks like he just stepped out of the bar, no matter where he's at. I've seen him at a national championship twice now. His eyes are always super red. He always looks like he's just, been hitting the sauce.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Looks like he's been hitting the sauce, allegedly. Looks like he put one in the air, allegedly. He just always looks like he's a guy he knows where the party's at, and it don't matter. He just go do him a few 5-hour energies in the morning and be ready to coach the team.
So, see, we can't have him in Tuscaloosa then because we'll have another Lane Kiffin situation, allegedly. We'll have another Lane Kiffin situation where he's walking to the bars after practice or whatever. But, allegedly. So, but not, I mean, and I don't think I think losing their quarterback is a big deal for them moving forward. And this defense is still, I think, is one of the best defenses in college football. They struggled in this game against Syracuse. Funny how LSU beat Syracuse and now Clemson lost to Syracuse. So does that mean LSU and Alabama's for the national championship? If you really think about it, that might be for the national championship because this could be a Final Four team here.
LSU?
Hey, LSU beat Syracuse. Syracuse beat the best team in the country outside of Alabama. So that technically means LSU, number 24 ranked team in the nation, is competing for a national championship.
I feel like if you lose to Troy, you should not even be mentioned in the same sentence as national championship for at least 5 years. At least.
I don't know, man.
At least. Not even the same sentence. You should be disqualified. somebody from the NCAA should have walked on the field after they lost to Troy and said,
Man.
you can no longer you can't play in a championship game for at least 5 years.
Come on, man. You see everybody want to be like Troy. Auburn got their mascot dressed like Troy. They didn't do that to try to mock LSU. They did that because they trying to embrace Troy. Because Troy is the second best team in Alabama. So they try to embrace it. Like, hey, we don't look up to Alabama. We look up to these guys, the Troy Trojans. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, Clemson is still going to be in the college football playoffs, depending on.
I don't know, man. That Miami game.
Yeah.
First, they got to get to the ACC championship
that's what I'm saying.
game. And then Miami could be scary for them.
Miami's a scary team. They're a real scary team, and I think, especially escaping a close game last weekend, I think this Miami team could possibly do it. But that game is going to determine, I think, the common factor on who's going to win the ACC. And then I'm forgetting, NC State as well.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I mean, don't forget about NC State. I mean, did they lose to them last year or did they struggle with them? No, they lost to who did they lose to last year?
Are we talking Miami or Clemson?
Clemson lost to somebody last year.
Is it Pitt?
Pitt. They lost to Pitt last year, but they struggled
Pitt.
with NC State. NC State, they struggled with them, a few years in a row. But NC State's one of those dangerous teams that could, be Clemson's second loss. They also got to play Georgia Tech. They still got to play Florida State, which is going to be a tough game. So Clemson's schedule may not be as easy as we thought it would be. You sort of looking at it. This loss to Syracuse sort of puts them on the ropes, especially with the status of Kelly Bryant, their quarterback, sort of being a little bit up in the air.
And there's two marquee games on that I think are marquee games this weekend, and that's Michigan at Penn State, and you got USC at Notre Dame. Who do you got in those two games, man? Because I know both of these teams, all four of these teams are looking to vie for a playoff position. Of course, USC especially because they're trying to bounce back after losing early on in the season. And you got Penn State trying to prove themselves as the number 2 team in the nation. So which one of those games are you looking most forward to?
Oh, definitely Penn State, Michigan. I think this is one of those games where Penn State can sort of start to prove that they're a legitimate team. I mean, to this point, I don't really think they've played an incredibly tough schedule. I just think this is one of those games where I don't necessarily think Michigan is that great, but I think it's going to be a sort of – this is where you start to see what Penn State is. Penn State is over these next couple of weeks. This week they get Michigan at home, then they're at Ohio State next week. If they can win those two games, things could be really, really bright for them heading down the stretch run of the Big Ten season, and I think we probably could pencil Penn State in the playoff. But for right now, they got to get over that hump of Michigan, and this is one of those games where I think a lot of people probably counting Michigan out, but at the same time, Jim Harbaugh could have something up his sleeve.
I would like to watch USC Notre Dame. That's always a competitive game, but I think when you look at what game is more important to playoff implications, I'm going to go with the Penn State and Michigan game. I know a lot of people are calling Jim Harbaugh overrated now after losing Michigan State. I don't know if he bounces back from this game. I think Penn State's going to do it. James Franklin's a good coach. James Franklin, outside of Dabo one of the up-and-coming coaches, in this league, and I think James Franklin does it. I don't know if he does it to go all the way and beat a team like Alabama, but I think he definitely gets a college playoff bid. We'll see when it comes to these next 3 games because they still got Michigan State and they still got Ohio State. So, he's got to beat the head honchos of the conference in order to get in that playoff position. So that does it. Mark, another podcast done, man. 3 episodes. 3 episodes, we ain't got canceled yet.
We major, baby.
We major. But if we keep listening to Meek Mill, I don't know. We may take an L eventually.
Hey.
I don't even know if I should be closing out with this or not. Because, Meek Mill's taking L's last year.
Hey, yeah, I mean, listen. Meek Mill, that's you over there. I'll be Drake. Drake's still winning. He had Rihanna for a little while. He's putting out successful albums. And, we're just going to keep this thing rolling.
Absolutely. Episode 3 of the Marq Marq podcast. Make sure you follow me at Marquis Munson, MarquisMunson. Mark, go ahead and tell them your Twitter, bud.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at Mark_Burnett. That's at MarQ_BURNETT. Continue to tweet us your thoughts on the podcast. We appreciate all the love that you guys have been giving us, and stick with us as we continue to grow throughout this thing.
Absolutely. And for the next podcast, let's do this. Tweet us your questions. If you want a question for the podcast answered, tweet us. and then we'll answer your question on the next podcast. And it can be anything. It can be about music. It can be about anything going on in sports. It can be about Alabama. It can be about whatever. Just don't ask us personal questions because we ain't answering that. We ain't here for all that. So don't ask us no personal questions. Just leave it to sports and maybe music and maybe who I think is the finest celebrity. Because Rihanna looking mad thick right now. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
I'm just gonna walk away from the microphone.
I'm shooting my shot. Hi, Rihanna.
I'm walking away from the microphone.
I'm hitting the Royster 5'9" at the Cypher. Hi, Rihanna. That does it for the Marq Marq podcast. For Mark Burnett of SEC Country, I'm Marquis Munson with Tide 102.9 100.9, the home of Alabama sports. Tune in next week for another Marq Marq podcast here on Tide 102.9.